And Polly asks, if a measure doesn't have a benchmark, how is it scored?
Well, Polly, great question, and thanks. You're aware that the majority of quality measures, and I'm assuming you're talking about quality measures, not cost or um, promoting interoperability or practice improvement. In the cost measure that's been around for a while, we look 2 years back and use the submissions of those measures to benchmark the current year performance. If there isn't a benchmark from 2 years ago, and that may be because there hasn't been enough volume of those measures to establish a benchmark. It might be a new measure, or it might be an old measure for which the specifications have substantially changed. In any of those cases, we don't have a valid benchmark from 2 years ago on which to score those measures. Now, in those cases, Medicare will calculate a benchmark from that submission year data. So for this year, we're in 2022 data. By the end of the submission period, roughly March 31st of 2023, Medicare will look at each of those measures that don't have a previous benchmark. And if there's at least 20 entities, that can be an individual, a group, a virtual group, any entity that submits that measure, there has to be at least 20 unique submissions of that measure. Each of those 20 submissions come from an eligible entity or clinician. Each have meet the data completeness criteria, and each in themselves have at least the floor of 20 unique cases to submit. If there's that minimum standard, Medicare will calculate a benchmark from the current year data and then apply that just as it does the historical benchmarks to the measurement. This is in fact a more accurate way to grade on the curve, if you will, or divide the industry into deciles or percentiles. But it doesn't give us that advantage that we're looking for, that we know what the standard is. If we submit this number, we know we're going to get this score. We'll still get a solid score if there's enough data to judge that on. But it can only be judged after all the data is in and analyzed.